My dad's between jobs. My son Marcus mumbled at career day, his voice barely reaching the third row where I sat, invisible among the other parents. The Thomas Whitfield, who once commanded boardrooms and closed billion-dollar deals, was now just another face in the crowd. Exactly how my ex-wife and her new husband wanted it. But as Principal Morrison leaned into the microphone with a knowing smile, I realized some secrets are too big to stay buried, even when your own son has been taught to be ashamed of you. The gymnasium was packed with 11-year-olds and their career day presenters. Doctors, lawyers, tech executives, all in their pressed suits and practiced smiles. I sat in my faded jeans and the last designer shirt that still fit properly, watching Marcus shrink smaller with each successful parent's presentation. His stepfather, Richard Hazen, had just finished a flashy talk about real estate development, complete with a PowerPoint showing his waterfront properties. Next up, we have Marcus Whitfield. Mrs. Chen announced. Marcus, would you like to tell us about your parents' careers? Marcus walked to the front like he was heading to his execution. His eyes darted to where his mother sat in the front row, her perfect highlights catching the light, Richard's arm draped possessively over her shoulder. Then his gaze found me in the back, and something in his face crumbled. My mom works in fashion marketing, he started, his voice stronger when talking about her. She runs campaigns for luxury brands. And my stepdad. He gestured to Richard, who preened. He develops shopping centers and hotels. And your father? Mrs. Chen prompted gently. The silence stretched. I could feel every eye in the room waiting. My ex-wife, Serena, turned slightly, shooting me a look that said, "Don't you dare make a scene." As if I was the one who'd spent 3 years telling our son that his father was a failure who couldn't hold down a job. My dad's, between jobs, Marcus finally said, the words falling like stones in still water. He's been looking for work. A few parents shifted uncomfortably. Someone's mother whispered to another. I saw Richard's satisfied smirk, the same one he'd worn when the judge granted him permission to have Marcus call him Dad at home. The same one from when he convinced Serena that my instability meant I should only get weekend visits. Principal Morrison stood up from her chair on the stage, her movement drawing attention. She was a small woman, but something in her bearing commanded the room. Actually, she said, walking to the microphone, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The whispering stopped. Marcus looked confused, frozen at the podium. Mr. Whitfield, Principal Morrison said, looking directly at me, would you mind standing up? 200 heads swiveled to the back row. I stood slowly, my heart hammering but my face calm. This wasn't how I planned any of this. Parents and students, the principal continued, her voice carrying clearly, I need to share something. This morning, our school received the largest single donation in its 75-year history. $40 million for a new science wing, complete with state-of-the-art laboratories, a planetarium, and a greenhouse for our environmental studies program. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Serena's perfectly lined lips parted in shock. The donor requested anonymity. Principal Morrison said, but given the circumstances, and with his permission. She looked at me questioningly. I gave the slightest nod. The donation came from Mr. Thomas Whitfield, Marcus's father. The gymnasium erupted. The $40 million wing. A parent near me gasped. That's more than the school's entire endowment. Marcus stood at the podium, his mouth open, eyes wide. Dad, he said into the microphone, his voice cracking. You donated $40 million. I walked down the center aisle, every eye tracking my movement. Serena had gone pale under her spray tan. Richard's smirk had vanished, replaced by something that looked like he'd swallowed a wasp. Surprise, buddy, I said softly as I reached the front, winking at my son. I've been between jobs because I sold my company 6 months ago. Turns out the artificial intelligence platform I spent 10 years building was worth quite a bit. Quite a bit? Principal Morrison interjected with a laugh. Parents, Mr. Whitfield's company, Neuralink Solutions, sold to Microsoft for $2.3 billion. It was all over the financial news, though he used his company name, not his personal one. The room exploded again. Phones came out, fingers flying across screens, looking up the sale. The whispers turned to excited chatter. But Mom said, Marcus started, then stopped, his face flushing red. She said you couldn't even pay child support on time. That you were living in some tiny apartment because you couldn't afford better. I kept my voice gentle, aware of our audience but focused only on my son. The apartment is temporary, while my new house is being built. As for child support, your mom asked me to pay her directly instead of through the court. I have every receipt. Serena stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly. This is highly inappropriate, she said, her marketing voice trying to take control of the narrative. We shouldn't be discussing private family matters. You're right, I agreed calmly. Which is why I never mentioned it. But when my son stands up and tells his class he's ashamed of his unemployed father, when I've built something that will revolutionize how we interact with technology, well, that seems like a good time for the truth. Dad, Marcus said, his voice small. You really sold the company for billions, but you never said anything. You never. His voice trailed off, and I could see him piecing together 3 years of contradictions. The weekend visits where I lived simply but never complained about money. The times I'd offered to pay for his activities only to have his mother insist Richard would handle it. The coding lessons I'd given him on my old laptop that he now realized was cutting-edge tech. I didn't build my company to brag about it, I said. I built it because I believed in the technology. The money was just a byproduct. But you know what matters more than any of that? He shook his head, tears starting to form in his eyes. You matter more, I said. You've always mattered more. Every line of code I wrote, every late night, every breakthrough. It was all so I could build something that would make your future better. The science wing isn't about showing off. It's about making sure you and every kid in this school has access to the tools that will shape tomorrow. The dedication ceremony is next month. Principal Morrison added. We were hoping Marcus might cut the ribbon, since the wing will be named the Marcus Whitfield Center for Scientific Innovation. That did it. Marcus launched himself at me, wrapping his arms around my waist and sobbing. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. Mom said. Richard said. But you were always there, weren't you? Every weekend you were there. I held my son, feeling 3 years of forced distance collapse. Over his head, I saw Serena's face cycle through emotions, shock, anger, calculation, and finally, something that might have been regret. Richard, meanwhile, looked like someone had revealed his entire real estate empire was built on sand. Which, even what I knew about his leveraged deals and the coming market correction, wasn't far from the truth. But that was karma for another day. Mr. Whitfield, a parent called out, are you the same Thomas Whitfield who just partnered with the Gates Foundation on global education initiatives? Before I could answer, another voice. My company tried to license your predictive algorithm technology. We couldn't even get a meeting. The questions came faster now, and I realized something had shifted. The invisible dad in the back row had become the center of gravity in the room. But more importantly, Marcus was looking at me with something I hadn't seen in 3 years. Pride. Perhaps, Principal Morrison suggested, Mr. Whitfield would be willing to give an impromptu presentation. I know our students would love to hear about building a technology company from scratch. I looked down at Marcus, who nodded eagerly. Would you help me? I asked him. You know more about the technical side than most people realize. All those coding sessions weren't just for fun. His face lit up. Really? But I'm just learning. The best learners make the best teachers, I said, guiding him back to the podium. Besides, you helped me debug the neural network problem last month, remember? That was for your billion-dollar company. His voice squeaked. I helped with actual AI code. As we set up for an impromptu presentation, I caught Serena trying to slip out with Richard. "Serena," I called out, my voice carrying just enough to make her stop. "You'll want to check your email. My lawyer sent over a revision to the custody arrangement. Given that I'm no longer unemployed and unstable, we'll need to revisit Marcus's living situation." She turned, her perfectly composed face cracking. "You can't just." "I can," I said simply. "And I will. Marcus deserves to know his father, not the fictional failure you and Richard invented. But we can discuss that later. Right now, I have a presentation to give with my son." As I turned back to Marcus, I heard Richard hiss to Serena, "You told me he was nobody, a failed programmer living off his parents." "I thought he was," she hissed back. "But I was done caring what they thought." Marcus was pulling up the presentation software, his earlier shame transformed into excitement. "Dad, can we show them the prototype? The one that responds to thoughts?" "That's still in beta," I laughed. "But sure, why not? Just remember, we can't reveal everything. Some secrets are worth keeping until the right moment." He grinned, and for the first time in 3 years, I saw myself in his smile. Not the defeated man Serena had painted me as, not the absent father Richard tried to replace, but the real me, the one who'd never stopped fighting for this moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, his voice strong now, proud, "my dad is Thomas Whitfield, founder of Neuralink Solutions, and he's about to show you the future." As I began to speak, sharing the journey from a garage startup to a multi-billion-dollar exit, I noticed something beautiful. Marcus stood beside me, adding details, explaining concepts he'd learned during our weekends together. Every now and then, he'd look up at me with such pure admiration that it made every lonely night, every missed holiday because of the custody arrangement, every moment of forced silence worth it. The presentation went on for 30 minutes, with engaged questions from students and parents alike. By the end, Marcus was fielding technical questions with confidence, and I realized that while I'd built an ad company, the greatest thing I'd ever programmed was the curiosity and resilience in my son. As the applause died down, Marcus grabbed the microphone one last time. "I want to say something," he announced. "My dad's not between jobs. He's between victories, and I'm proud to be his son." The gymnasium erupted in applause again. In the back, I saw Serena and Richard having what appeared to be a heated discussion. Several parents were approaching her, no doubt with questions about how she'd hidden my success from the school community. Principal Morrison thanked everyone and began dismissing the assembly. Parents surrounded me with business cards and partnership proposals, but I only had eyes for Marcus. "Dad," he said quietly, as the crowd pressed around us, "why didn't you tell anyone? Why let Mom say those things?" I knelt down to his level, speaking just for him. "Because fighting with your mother would have hurt you. I knew the truth would come out eventually. Success speaks louder than arguments, and patience beats anger every time. Remember that." He nodded solemnly, then brightened. "Can I see the new house? The one being built?" "This weekend," I promised. "It has a coding lab just for you. And Marcus? It's not my house. It's our house. Your room is already designed. I used your sketches from last year, the ones with the rocket ship ceiling." His eyes widened. "You kept those?" "I kept everything," I said. "Every drawing, every report card, every little moment." Being between jobs just meant I had more time to plan our future. As we finally made our way out of the gymnasium, Principal Morrison stopped us. "Mr. Whitfield, the board would love to discuss further partnerships. Your vision for education technology aligns perfectly with our goals." "Have your people call my people," Marcus piped up, then blushed. "I mean, I laughed, ruffling his hair. "He's got it right. My assistant will set something up. But first, I think my son and I need to have a long overdue conversation about what comes next." We walked out together, past the clusters of amazed parents, past Serena and Richard's hushed argument, past the weight of 3 years of lies. In the parking lot, Marcus stopped at my Tesla, the one his mother had called a waste of money for someone who can't pay rent on time. "Dad," he said quietly, "I love you. And I'm sorry I believed. I'm sorry." "Never apologize for trusting your mother," I said. "That's what sons do. But now you know the truth, and that's what matters." As we drove away, I caught a glimpse in the rearview mirror of Serena standing in the parking lot, her phone pressed to her ear, probably calling her lawyer. Richard was nowhere to be seen, had likely slunk off to figure out how to spin this to his advantage. But none of that mattered anymore. Marcus was asking rapid-fire questions about the company, the technology, the future. His shame had transformed into pride, his distance into closeness. The career day that began with him mumbling about his unemployed father had ended with him standing tall beside the man he now knew I really was. "Hey, Dad," Marcus said, as we stopped at a red light. "Next career day, can I present about you? Like officially?" I smiled, thinking about all the career days to come, all the moments we'd share now that the truth had demolished the wall between us. "How about next time we present together? As partners?" "Partners," he repeated, testing the word. Then, with a grin that was pure joy, "Thomas and Marcus Whitfield, changing the world. One line of code at a time," I agreed. And as we drove toward our future, our real future, built on truth instead of lies, presence instead of absence, I knew that of all the things I'd accomplished, this moment was worth more than any billion-dollar exit. The science wing would stand for generations, bearing Marcus's name. But the bridge rebuilt between father and son today, that was the real monument to what matters most. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying those who wronged you. Sometimes it's simply refusing to let them destroy what you love. And as Marcus chatted excitedly about showing me his latest coding project, I knew that this unemployed dad had just landed the only job that truly mattered, being his father again.